There is a particular kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with how much you've slept. It shows up as a vague but persistent feeling that you are navigating life alone. That the future is something to brace for rather than move toward. That trust in life, in people, in the idea that things will work out, is something you used to have and somewhere along the way quietly lost. It's not depression exactly. It's not anxiety exactly. It's something underneath both of those. A disconnection. From something larger than yourself, from a sense that you belong to something, that you are held by something, that you are not simply a small person trying to manage an unpredictable world entirely on your own. Most psychology doesn't have a clean name for it, but most spiritual traditions do. And today I want to talk about what happens when that connection breaks, and how to find your way back to it. Every major spiritual tradition in human history, across cultures, across centuries, with no contact between them, arrived independently at the same idea: that there is something larger than the individual self. That human beings are not isolated units moving through a meaningless universe, but part of something connected, something alive, something that in some way holds and supports them. Different traditions call it different things. God, the universe, source, nature, the collective, the whole. The names don't matter as much as the underlying experience they're pointing at, the felt sense of not being alone in existence, of being part of something rather than merely subject to it. Psychology, which spent most of the 20th century focusing on the individual mind, has been slowly arriving at something similar. Researchers studying well-being consistently find that a sense of meaning, of connection to something beyond the self, is one of the strongest predictors of psychological resilience. Not wealth, not achievement, not even relationships alone. The felt sense that your life is part of something larger. Viktor Frankl, who developed his psychological framework inside a Nazi concentration camp, argued that the primary human drive is not pleasure or power, but meaning. And meaning, he found, almost always pointed beyond the self. When that connection is absent, or when it's been broken by experience, by loss, by a world that increasingly encourages self-sufficiency as the highest virtue, specific things happen. Trust erodes. Not just trust in people, but trust in life itself. The sense that things will work out, that you are being supported in ways you can't always see, that the universe is not fundamentally hostile, that goes. And in its place comes a low-level vigilance, a need to control, a bracing against what's coming. The future stops feeling like possibility and starts feeling like threat. The unknown, which in a connected state feels like openness, starts feeling like danger. Because if you are alone, if there is nothing holding you, then the unknown is genuinely terrifying. There is no net. Anxiety often has this at its root, not a chemical imbalance, not a thinking error, but a cosmological loneliness. The experience of being unmoored from anything larger than yourself. And there is a particular modern flavor of this that's worth naming. We live in a culture that has systematically dismantled the structures that used to provide this connection. Religious community, extended family, relationship with nature, ritual, shared meaning. And replaced them with productivity, achievement, and the kind of relentless self-optimization that keeps you entirely focused on the individual self, with no remainder left over for anything beyond it. The result is a generation of capable, high-functioning, deeply lonely people who can't quite name what's missing. The psychology of spirituality. Research in the psychology of religion and spirituality, a field that has grown significantly in the last 2 decades, consistently shows that people with a felt sense of connection to something larger than themselves show lower rates of depression and anxiety, greater resilience under stress, faster recovery from trauma, and a stronger sense of meaning and purpose. This holds regardless of the specific belief system. It is not about doctrine. It is about the experience of connection itself. Psychologist Kenneth Pargament, who has spent decades researching the intersection of spirituality and mental health, describes what he calls spiritual struggle, the experience of feeling cut off from the sacred, whatever the individual understands that to mean. And his research shows that this struggle is one of the strongest predictors of psychological distress, not because of the theology, because of the disconnection. Carl Jung went further. He argued that the search for connection to something larger is not a cultural artifact or a childhood need that mature adults outgrow. It is a fundamental feature of the human psyche. That neurosis, in many cases, is what happens when that search goes unfulfilled for too long. You don't have to believe in anything specific to take this seriously. What the research is pointing at is simply this. Human beings are not built for radical isolation, not just social isolation, existential isolation, the experience of being unconnected to any larger whole. How the connection breaks, it rarely breaks all at once. It erodes. Through experiences that teach you the world is unsafe and unpredictable, through loss that feels senseless, through a culture that rewards cynicism and treats wonder as naivety, through years of being told to be practical, to manage your expectations, to not get your hopes up, through the kind of self-sufficiency that starts as strength and quietly hardens into isolation. The belief that relying on anything you can't see or control is weakness, that trust is for people who haven't learned better yet, and somewhere in that erosion, the felt sense of being held, of belonging to something, of being part of a fabric rather than a loose thread, disappears. So gradually you barely notice it going, until one day you realize that the future feels like something to survive rather than something to move toward. And you can't quite remember when that changed. The way back is not intellectual. You cannot think your way into a felt sense of connection. You cannot reason yourself into trust. It is experiential. It happens through practice, through deliberately, repeatedly turning toward the experience of being part of something larger until the nervous system begins to believe it. This is what prayer is, in its essence, what meditation is, what time in nature is, what ritual is. Not belief systems imposed from outside, but technologies developed over millennia for producing a specific inner experience. The felt sense of connection to something beyond the self. The light sourcing practice I'm about to guide you through is built on exactly this. It doesn't require any specific belief. It doesn't require that you know what the light is or where it comes from. It only requires that you're willing to turn toward it. Practice light sourcing. Find a comfortable position, sitting or lying down, whatever allows your body to fully relax. Let your hands rest open, palms facing upward, a gesture of receiving rather than holding. Close your eyes. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. With each exhale, let something go. Not forcefully. Just allow the body to soften a little more with each breath out. Now bring your attention to the space above you. Not with your eyes, with your awareness. And imagine, or simply allow the possibility of, a source of light. Warm, steady, unhurried. It doesn't matter what you call it or where you believe it comes from. Just allow it to be there. Watch it slowly expand downward, reaching you. Not rushing, moving at the pace of something that has nowhere else to be. Let it land on you first. Feel it, or imagine feeling it, on the top of your head. Warm, present. And then slowly, gradually let it move inward, through the surface, into the mind, settling there, softening the vigilance, quieting the calculations about what might go wrong. Let it move down into the chest, into the heart. This is where disconnection tends to live, in a tightness, a guardedness, a careful holding. Let the light reach that place, not to fix it, just to be with it, to remind it that it is not alone. Let it continue downward, through the body, into the belly, the legs, all the way to the ground beneath you, until you are full of it, inside and out. Now stay here for a moment. In this light, there is nothing to manage, nothing to brace against. The future is not a threat to navigate alone. It is something you are moving through, held by something larger than yourself. You don't have to know what that something is. You only have to let it be here. If thoughts come, let them pass without following them. If resistance comes, that's okay. Just notice it and stay. Whenever you're ready, take a slow breath in. And on the exhale, let the practice settle into your body as a memory, something you can return to. Open your eyes when you feel ready, and carry a little of that quality, the unhurried, held feeling, into the rest of your day. The disconnection you've been feeling is not a character flaw. It is not weakness. It is a completely understandable response to a world that has systematically removed most of the structures that used to provide this experience of connection and replaced them with noise. But the capacity for connection is not gone. It was never gone. It is a fundamental feature of being human, waiting to be returned to. You don't have to have it all figured out theologically. You don't have to commit to a belief system or resolve every doubt. You only have to be willing, occasionally, to turn towards something larger than yourself and let it be there. That willingness, practiced consistently, changes things. Not all at once, but steadily, quietly, in the direction of trust. I'll see you next Monday.